as of right now. Please consider this when sharing or asking questions. I will also ask that you remain muted unless asking a question. I will be monitoring the chat box, so please feel free to ask questions there, and I will let our speaker know as questions pop up. I'm excited to welcome you to this morning's session on Medicaid waivers, presented by Ian Reagans. Ian is a district manager with Bureau of Developmental Disability Services, or BDDS. His team works with individuals that have active waivers or are in living supported group living settings, When not working, he is a member of the Tipton Community Theater and enjoys being actively involved in both plays and musicals. He and his wife also greatly enjoy going out hiking and kayaking or staying in and hanging out with the cats. Please help me welcome Ian.
Good morning, everybody. Like Courtney said, my name is Ian Reagans, and I'm a district manager with Bureau of Developmental Disability Services. The area that my specific office serves is the greater Indianapolis area. So Marion County, Hamilton, Boone, Hendricks, Johnson, Morgan, Shelby, and Hancock. So we have quite a few, and the most populous area in the state with our considering our clients. Our contact information is going to be listed on the last slide. And if anybody wants that, I'm happy to post that in the chat as well. Moving forward here, Medicaid waivers are what is known as home and community-based services. Home and community-based services provide opportunities for individuals with disabilities to receive Medicaid-funded supports and services in their home and their community, rather than inside institutions or in more isolated settings. So each state operates their own waiver systems, and here in Indiana, Bureau of Developmental Disability Services administers 2 waivers to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Those are the Family Support Waiver and the Community Integration and Habilitation Waiver. In this presentation, it's important to remember that I'm only talking about the waivers that BDDS administers. There are other waivers administered by the Division of Aging for individuals who have extensive medical needs. And if you need information on those waivers, you can reach out to your local area agency on agings. In Indianapolis, SACOA is our go-to. When we are discussing eligibility for waivers, diagnosis alone doesn't automatically qualify an individual for waiver. For both waivers, an individual must have an intellectual or a developmental disability with an onset prior to the age of 22 years old. They must also meet our level of care. So after an application is submitted to our office, we do reach out to schedule a time to have individuals and families come in and meet with us, tell us about themselves, what's going on. We ask questions about major life areas, for example, self-care, learning, self-direction, capacity for independent living, and understanding and use of language. We also will discuss mobility. And then from those answers, we determine if an individual does meet our level of care. And when I talk about meeting level of care, it's having a substantial limitation in at least 3 of those 6 major life areas. Additionally, in order to have one of our waivers, you also have to have a compatible category of Medicaid. So for children under the age of 18 years old, a big question for parents is, what about household income? That household income requirement is disregarded by DFR for those kiddos 18 and under. And for individuals aged 18 and above, they will have to apply for and be approved for SSI. And if you don't already have Medicaid at the time of application, the BDDS office will advise you when the appropriate time to apply is, and we can help follow up on that process to assist families. I'm going to touch on the Community Integration and Habilitation Waiver now. To be eligible for the CIH waiver, an individual must meet all the eligibility criteria that I previously discussed, and they must also meet one or more priority category that is established in Indiana code. Indiana code states that in addition to these criteria, it has to be determined that an alternate placement in a supervised group living setting is not available or is an inappropriate option. So a lot of times when people are reaching out, we do ask them to initiate our group home process at the same time. That process generally moves a little bit quicker as well. So we get a lot of folks that reach out and say that, hey, we have an emergency situation. We are able to get those group home referrals out fairly quickly as long as that person does meet eligibility criteria. And then if an individual is approved for the CIH waiver, then the individual's budget is determined by using an algorithm which takes into consideration their age, their living arrangement, their health status, and their support needs. You'll hear that called an algo score. And then to apply for this waiver, the individual or guardian does need to reach out to their local BDDS office and request an application for the CIH waiver. Frequently, we do have people ask their case management companies for these as well. Case managers can provide a CIH waiver, but they're really not supposed to assist in putting that together. But if there are questions on that, they can be asked to case management, and you can always reach out to the BDDS office to ask those questions as well. Up next is the Family Support Waiver. The Family Support Waiver does currently operate on a wait list. That wait list has fluctuated greatly over the years. It used to be quite long. We did whittle it down to just a matter of a few months prior to COVID. And then now that COVID has struck and put some limitations on staffing and other needs, it has unfortunately gone back up. We are currently looking at more than a year between time of application and when we are targeting for those services. So be aware of that. We do target people based on application date though. So the sooner an application comes in, the quicker that person does get targeted for services. Once an individual is determined eligible, they are placed on our wait list. It's important to keep contact information up to date with us so that when we are ready to target, we are able to reach out and make contact with that family. We do find sometimes that people move, they don't, let us know, and it does lengthen the amount of time that it takes to get that person onto the waiver services. Family Support Waiver has a maximum annual budget of $19,614 that has gone up in the last year. It's actually gone a couple times in the last couple of years, but again, currently $19,614. Waiver Case Manager does assist in determining what services a person is interested in receiving and how that fits into a person's budget. Individuals who are 18 to 24 years old who have exited a school setting or are children of an active or a veteran member of the United States Armed Forces or National Guard may qualify for a priority category for the Family Support Waiver, which does allow them to move up to the top of the wait list. Generally, when we have folks reach out, we're looking for DD-214s to show an honorable discharge from the military or their current orders indicating that they are an active member. Once we have those, we're generally looking at getting eligibility completed and then targeting for services within the next month. So those do move quite a bit faster than the wait list. So if you do have folks that you're helping apply, make sure that they know about this. Next, I'm going to touch on supervised group living. So supervised group living, also known as group homes. This is a residential option for adults. Indiana has had children's group homes. However, those are closing around the state, rather than closing, being converted to adult placements. So we are not going to be placing children in group homes anymore at this time. Those are all converting to adult homes. And these are considered to be an alternative placement to waiver. An important factor to note about supervised group living is that individuals may not receive home and community-based services while residing in a supervised group living, which just means you can't have a family support or a CIH at the same time as living in one of these SGL settings.
Ian,
Yes,
so these are funded by Medicaid, correct?
correct.
Typically?
Yes,
Really?
they are funded by Medicaid. It is just they are not waiver funded. So when we do get a person enrolled with a supervised group living setting, the provider is directly billing Medicaid for those services. When you're looking at the differences between group home and a supported living setting, group homes typically have 6 to 8 individuals living in them. They are 24-hour staffed settings. And generally the intention is to be a little more structured. So this sort of going back to when I was discussing that we generally are looking at supervised group living when people are applying for that CIH setting as well. The SGL settings are generally a little more structured. So when you've got those people that have never lived independently, these SGL settings are good options to help skill build and act as a transitional setting for those people that maybe don't have those independent living skills that some other people might have. So this is a great option to skill build, and that's generally what I let people know.
And these are basically considered institutional settings in our state, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. But if someone is in supervised group living, it does not go well, or perhaps it does go very well and they're ready for a more independent living setting, they could then apply for the CIH and have a priority status coming from that kind of group setting?
Yes, that's correct. We are looking for those people who are in group home living settings to be in the setting for at least 60 days before we're looking at a priority for a CIH. And generally we have people staying, a lot longer than that. Sometimes the SGL is perfect for them and it's their home for years. But if there is a situation that something is going extremely poorly in the setting, we will look at those on a case-by-case basis as well to look at movement to a different setting.
Thank you so much for answering that. The difference between group homes and waiver homes can be super confusing for family because they kind of look the same on the outside, but they function so differently.
Yeah, they absolutely do.
They're living in a home in the community, but they're funded and structured. It's also very different.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yes, yeah, and I like to think of group home settings as that one-stop shop with a provider offering all of the services. Sometimes they're looking at day program through another provider when they're in a supervised group living setting. But in that waiver setting, it's generally a pick and choose type of services. A lot more providers are involved in that setting as well, and they're generally 2 to 4 people in a waiver setting. So the sizing is different as well. A big question that we get is, in the housing, specifically in a group home setting that is shared 2-person bedrooms, but a waiver setting is also a single person bedroom. So that's another big question that we generally are getting. Okay. I'm going to talk about targeting of services now. So when a person does reach the top of our wait list, that's referred to as targeting. You receive a letter in the mail. You're asked to indicate whether you have continued interest in receiving services or not. We do from time to time see people that things have actually turned out so well within the time that they've been on the wait list, they do turn down services. It's rare, but it does happen. And it's important to respond to those letters indicating choice to move forward or not. And it is important to keep that contact information up to date with us as well, because if we're not getting responses, we can only reach out to what we have available to us. And if at the time of application to the time of targeting exceeds 12 months, we are completing new level of cares to ensure that that person does still meet our need or the level of need for those services. And again, just back to that level of care itself, we're looking at self-care, learning, self-direction, capacity for independent living, understanding of use and language and mobility, and then having the substantial functional limitation in at least 3 of those 6 settings. So once determined eligible, the BEAD service coordinator will provide the person or the guardian with a choice list. We have updated the language there, so we are calling them choice lists rather than pick lists now. Bear with us because it's a change for us as well. So I'm calling them those interchangeably at the moment. You can take this choice list home, begin the process of calling case management companies to see which one you think will be a good fit for you and your family. Think about what you want when you're looking at those case management companies, what's important to you, where you see yourself going, and ask questions. Find out what that company's preferred method of communication is, what their average response time is to questions and concerns. How do they manage crisis situations? And how do they help a person find and build supports in their community? So just a lot of different different ways that they communicate things. That just those are all important questions to be asking at this time. And these are just examples of topics. There are many, many more things that are important to families that I can't touch on right here. And then also keep in mind that a person can change a case management company at any time. There's always choice, and that goes for services in general as well. There's always choice of services. So once we do target for services as well, we are going to be asking those families to apply for Medicaid if they've not done that already. And again, due to special rules associated with Medicaid and individuals receiving a waiver, it's important that you do wait if we're asking you to apply for Medicaid at a specific time so we can help smooth that process. And we are going to assist in making sure that when that application goes out, that they are getting the correct category right away. That can cause some lag time in getting services activated if the initial category is not something that we can work with. So sometimes we see people getting HIP right away because they have not worked with us, and so then we have to get them switched to an appropriate category. So once Medicaid is approved and the referral is made to the chosen case management company, you then work with that case management company to create a person-centered individualized support plan and choose what waiver services best support you in vision of a good life. And that brings us to the PCisp. that person-centered individualized support plan. A person works with their case manager to create this document. It is a living document. So when I say that, it's ever changing. It fits what that person's life is right now and can change at any given time. We expect it to change and to grow with that person. This PCisp starts with what that person's vision of a good life is, and it helps them chart the path that they want to follow, and helps them identify those supports that they need to get to that point. We're going to be looking at identifying the strengths, what things this person has in their life already. And sometimes there are things that a person takes for granted when they are putting this together, and that case manager is going to help them identify those pieces. So that could be, from the case manager standpoint, it could be helping them identify what waiver supports they may need, or what community resources are around them, technology, where that fits in for them, current relationships, and then how that person can access things to meet those needs and help build upon those strengths they already have. And this is done when you first begin those services, so it is there right away. And then the case manager does update this semi-annually, but like I said, it can be updated at any given time as well, as things change. And the PCisp must be written in plain language, and it has to be accessible to individuals with disabilities, or a person with a limited English proficiency. We want these to be fully understandable by all parties, and I think that across the board, in all services, we find that in the past our language has not really fit that, and we want that to change. And then just looking at the PCisp itself, the key parts include the About Me section, where we're talking about vision of a good life, their strengths and qualities. It has the life stage section, so identifying what period of life that person is in. And another part of this that some people don't think about is, as they've passed through those other life stages, how those have affected them, and how services can best meet their needs now based on how their life has been, up to that point. And then the life domain section is the final section. And we, are looking at all pieces of a person's life at that point. What is going on with them in each of those settings, and if there are things that need to be worked out, if what things are great, what things aren't, how can we put some things in place to support those persons to really excel in those various domains. And then when we're talking about a person's team, their individualized support team, just want to make it clear that, this is something that we want that person to have control over. They really need to be the leader of their own team. They need to be their own voice, and we want to see that advocacy being encouraged. Everyone does play a role in those teams, but we want to make sure that that person does have a voice and is able to advocate for themselves and get the things that they really feel are going to make their life better, and really meet what they want to see. Just some examples of people who you may find on a person's individualized support team: the person themselves, parent or guardian, other family members, perhaps. Definitely the case manager is going to be part of this team. Various service providers are going to be here, and then anyone else selected by the individual or their guardian. This could be, a current teacher. It could be, a neighbor who has helped support them for their whole life up to this point. It really could be anybody. There's no limitations here. And then just a few examples of services that you may find for people are listed here on this page. There are a number of services available through Family Supports Waiver and Community Integration and Habilitation Waiver. These services are designed to provide access and support to a person living their vision of a good life and being in their home and out in the community. A case manager can help a person understand these various services and guide a person in picking what's meaningful. Through this process, the case manager will also guide a person on other resources that may exist in the community. Those case managers are going to be great at knowing what things are available locally. And they can help identify those technology pieces that somebody may not really recognize as a strength. And really help the family understand what they can bring to the table here as well to help support the individual. These waiver services are a really important piece to the puzzle in providing appropriate supports, but it's equally important to identify all those possible and all available resources that a person and their loved ones do have that are that are there to make things comprehensive and really integrated, and then we want them to be sustainable. And then just again, there is always choice in these services. So, if a person does start with a provider for one of these various services and things don't go well, there is always choice. So you can move on to a different provider. And then just like when you choose a case management company, you are asked to fill out a choice list for all of those various services that you may be interested in. Those choice lists have a name, a phone number, and address of a company that identifies themselves and what they're providing and what counties they're providing those in. A question that we regularly get from families is that the provider listed on this pick list says that their main office is in Fort Wayne, but we are in Indianapolis. Do they actually provide this service? If the person is being provided a choice list and it does list that provider and you see that it is a Marion County choice list, then they do offer that service here and the address itself can be ignored. So you may find people getting confused when these choice lists are going out. So that's something that you can reassure families on. When contacting possible service providers, it's always helpful to ask if they've got available staff. That is a pretty big deal right now. We're finding that many providers all across the state are currently unable to take on new folks. Many providers are operating on a wait list that they, haven't ever had to go with before. So that is a very good question to be asking. You're also going to want to make sure that those folks are available on the days or times that meet your needs. And we also want to make sure that family members are sharing prior experiences with providers if they've got, if things have been wrong with services before, you want to make sure that those are being shared with the current provider so they're aware of, what the needs are right now and can they really meet those needs and prevent, the same things from happening over and over again. So we really don't want to see that. Really turns people away from asking for help if they're finding that everywhere they're going, things really aren't meeting their needs.
Ian?
Yes.
Hi. At some point, could we get an email address instead of a fax number on our choice list?
So on choice lists for case management companies that are coming directly to Bureau of Developmental Disability Services, they can always be sent directly to a BEAD service coordinator or district manager, and we will process those.
Like choice list we get, like my rec therapy choice list has like the name of the provider, their address, their phone number, and then their fax number.
Gotcha.
That fax number isn't super helpful.
Yeah. So here's the issue with those, and you'll find a lot of times on a choice list that you reach out to a provider and they say, oh, we haven't provided that service in this county for a long time. We really need to purge those choice lists of those providers that are listed. However, the issue is that the way the system is built right now, it's up to those providers to actually be reaching out to our provider relations to update those things. So I will make note of that, and see if we can't perhaps put out a mass mailing to various providers to make sure they're updating contact list. Those contacts that are best for them. But the way things are built right now, it's actually up to those providers to make sure that those things are available to us so we can put them on our choice lists. So it is, I know it is frustrating at times, the way that things are on there currently, but I promise it is something that we've talked about. It just is not, we're hoping that it's all going to be built into the systems that we're working on currently.
Along with your things you just listed, I was recently looking for a new recreation therapist for my 9-year-old son who has a family support waiver. I composed a letter that I could email over and over again. Because I live in Hancock County, so I had a very long list of choices, but I realized that some of those providers wouldn't have staff or aren't offering the service at this time, etc. So it's just trying to speed up the process for me and them, really. So I wrote a letter. I said exactly what I wanted. I needed an after school spot, so I was very specific about the time I wanted, the day I wanted, what I wanted them to work on. It may have looked a little bit crazy, but it was just very specific about what I wanted and needed and what I was able to offer, so I didn't waste anybody's time. So I got put on 8 wait lists, but within 3 months, I had exactly what I was looking for. And lots of people never contacted me back, but that's okay because they didn't have what I was specifically looking for. So that emailing this form, very specific form letter over and over again was, I felt a really good use of my time and their time if you're looking for staff. And maybe a little bit crazy, but helpful, but just a little bit crazy.
I don't think so at all. And if you are finding that you are unable to get a hold of various providers, always reach out to our office. We're happy to assist in making sure that the contacts that you are reaching out to are the right ones, and again that your time is not being wasted, and that somebody else isn't. It's a good point, and it goes back to what I've said before. Those things turn people away from services, and we don't want that. Okay, just this last slide here is the contact information for the different BEADS district offices. I am happy to provide this. It's also listed on our website. I am going to stop sharing, and I will drop District 5's contact into the chat here with my contact as well. And then I also see that we have a couple other questions on the Whova app, so I will address those as well. But let me do this first, so I'm not jumping all over the place.
Anyone viewing right now, feel free to put your questions directly in the chat box on Zoom, or you can ask them on Whova. We're checking both as we go along here.
So this is our address, and this is my direct contact. So my email address, and then that is my direct office line, should anybody want that. The couple of questions that we've got on the Whova app right now are, how do we advocate for changes within the system? So this is something that I think Courtney shared, that she's going to have somebody this afternoon presenting that may be able to talk some on this as well. But my perspective on this is participate when we reach out for public comment. And, we do sometimes do sessions on social media directly, some Facebook Live events, various things like that. Kathy Robinson and Jessica Harlan York from BEADS and BQIS, our directors respectively, have done several Facebook Live events where they've asked for questions and comments, and we do get those from time to time. But we do also, as we make changes, regularly put things out for public comment, and those are the times that we hope that people are reaching out to give us their various opinions on the things that we are asking. I mentioned to Courtney earlier that as far as the things that I see, we're finding that regularly the same people are reaching out, and we're not getting a lot of things when we're asking for them. May hear about them later, hey, what about this and that, but we're not getting those kind of things when we are asking for them at the times that we're putting plans together. So it's really important to keep track of those things. And we do have mailing list DDRS things that go out that do indicate those times, so those can be subscribed to on our BDDS page, state page. And then how can we, yeah.
This afternoon at 1 o'clock, I'm hosting this one as well. It's ways to get involved in disability advocacy. Hannah Carlock from the ARC of Indiana will be on there, as well as someone from the Governor's Council. So that would also be a great question for that session. They have some great ways to get involved in advocacy and making change.
Thank you. The next question is, how can we increase reimbursement rates? So as of right now, those reimbursement rates get updated every couple of years. But my thought on this is that providers, if they believe that there need to be changes directly to those reimbursement rates, that they be reaching out to Bureau of Quality Improvement Services. Their information can be found online. They do have a BQIS helpline, and they also have a BQIS help email, which is, dropping this in the chat. BQIS.help@fssa.in.gov. BQIS is going to be able to answer any questions that are policy or things that are written into the code that we follow. So I think that this is something that's going to fall into that. Provider relations is going to be involved in this as well. But all of this is going to move through BQIS first. So that would be what that's what the route that I think should be taken when asking this question. And then, is the choice list online, just in case a caregiver wanted to look at it before applying? They are not yet available online. We are making some changes in our system to where we are going to be able to get those more readily. But right now, they're only available to BEADS and case management through our Insight system. So if a family does want to see a case management pick list, they can reach out prior to receiving services. I mean, they can reach out directly to one of the BEADS offices and we can get those for folks. Or if they're already with a case management company, it's as simple as asking the case manager to provide those. This is something that I forgot to mention, but when talking about supported group living, there is no choice list for those. And that is because that setting is controlled in a different way. So we are looking at all the information that is available for a person, and then we are determining what type of home is going to be the best fit. And then we are putting together referrals and sending those out to all the homes in the area that a person wants to search that meet those criteria that we establish. So they could go out to multiple providers at that point, and then it's on the family to work with those providers to determine which one of those various settings is the most appropriate for their loved one. Is FSSA educating medical providers or mental health providers to encourage families to apply for waivers as soon as possible? That is something that I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm not sure what is in the works right now. However, we are trying our best to get out into schools. So since COVID has been such a big thing, we've not been able to get out and do that for quite a while. But prior to COVID, every chance that we could get to go and speak to parents in school settings, that's been the outreach that at least our district offices are doing. But as far as this, bigger picture thing, I do not know what is being worked on currently.
We, at almost every Fuse Expo we've ever had in 15, 17, 18 years, however long we've been doing it, we always have a table set up for beads. We've had you all speak numerous times, and sometimes it feels like we're beating a dead horse. Like no one wants to hear about waivers again. But I think, Ian, that's true for you and true for me, that we still meet families that have children that are in their teens, 20s, and 30s who do not have waivers. It still happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a regular occurrence. And it's something that is sort of bothersome, that we make a lot of effort to try and get out there, but we can never get everybody. And it's just, it's one of those things I wish that I knew the answer to get out there to everybody. So if anybody's got that answer, let me know. But we try as much as we can. Our district offices, we try and do as much outreach as possible. We're trying to get out there to resource fairs, to provider fairs. We love getting those invites. I've done a lot of these this year already. I've done a lot of talking online to various people, a lot of these presentations. And I genuinely enjoy making it known what is available for folks, because otherwise they're maybe not getting that.
Some folks may feel like they don't need the waiver for their child at this time, but I always encourage people, you never know when your child or your life circumstances might change and you do need that waiver. And since there's a wait list, just get it now. Just get it now.
Yep.
And we've seen the wait list go up in the past 2 years. So that kind of drives that point home. Just apply as soon as you're able. And the application process really isn't that bad. As far as government applications and forms goes, it's not that bad. And
yeah,
it's online.
Yes, it's online now. And I think I listed that in one of the slides. Pretty sure I did. But it is BDDS gateway.fssa.in.gov. It is also listed on our website.
And that's new this past year. So some folks may not know that's still that's a possibility now.
Yeah, it just went live on February 2nd this year, I believe. Just drop that in here as well. And it's been great. We've received a pretty large influx, I would say, of applications because it is more it's more readily available. The internet is more or less available to anybody right now. And we also just went to a QR code as well, so we've got that for applications. I think that went out in a recent newsletter.
Do we think we'll see this wait list go back down to what it was pre-COVID, or are we going to be at a year, 18 months for a while?
I imagine we'll probably be here for a little while. I do think, though, that once things normalize, we will return to a shorter wait list. We've done it before and we'll do it again.
Something else that got started pre-COVID was the Waiver Redesign project. There were some really exciting things coming from that, like the possibility of a middle or a third waiver.
Yeah.
Do we know when we might be able to pick up on some of those ideas that kind of got put on pause?
I don't know. However, the thing that I do know is that we are going to be sending some things out in the first quarter of next year to make people aware of where we are at in that process, what things we've been able to move forward, what things have been put on hold, and where we feel the next step is, and a timeline for that. But it is very exciting. I'm really excited about where that's going.
Yes, we were lucky at Fuse. We had Kathy and Heather and some of the group come and present on the waiver redesign right before everything kind of went downward there. Yeah. I don't show any more questions in our chat box and any more questions on Whova. So unless we have any more questions, I will go ahead and say thank you to Ian and everyone who watched and let you all go. We do have 3 more sessions coming up at 1 o'clock. One is the road to SSI, ways to get involved in disability advocacy. And the third one is TSA programs that make travel a little easier. But I will go ahead and end this and let you all get on with your days. And thank you so much for presenting for us, Ian.
Yeah, thank you for the invite, and hope everybody has a great rest of the day.
Okay, see you soon.